Early in the morning, Toprak and his family set off from Trabzon, heading toward Rize. As they drove along the Black Sea coastal road, the sea was to their right and lush green mountains stacked upon each other to their left. Toprak rested his head against the car window, watching the scenery pass by. Mist weaving through the trees added a mysterious charm to the mountain peaks. "Look, Toprak," his father said as he turned the wheel. "We'll be in Rize soon. This is the heart of the Black Sea. The land of tea, rain, and endless green." Toprak's eyes sparkled. He wondered how tea was grown, why the mountains were always misty, and how people lived in such harmony with nature. As the car passed under the sign welcoming them to Rize, Toprak smiled with excitement. A brand new adventure was about to begin. The family would be staying in a highland house a bit outside the city center. Built on the slope of a small mountain, the wooden house offered a breathtaking view of the surrounding peaks from its windows. The hosts welcomed them warmly, handing Toprak a piece of freshly baked cornbread. At the first bite, Toprak could taste the butter melting inside and smiled. Looking down from the balcony, he saw the clouds resting below them. It felt like being above the sky itself. A gentle breeze blew, and in the distance, the soft clinking of sheep bells could be heard. His mother brewed tea in the kitchen, and his father sat back in a chair, gazing out at the view. In that moment, Toprak thought to himself, This is peace. The next morning, the family joined their hosts to visit a tea garden. Arranged in terraces on the hillside, rows of tea bushes created a deep green maze. Toprak, seeing the tea plants up close for the first time, was fascinated. The tiny leaves shimmered in the morning sun. He reached out to gently touch one. "These fresh buds are what they use to make tea," said his mother. The homeowner handed Toprak a small basket. "Go on, give it a try," he said with a smile. Toprak knelt down and carefully began picking the tender new shoots. Each leaf picked required patience and care. Soon, his hands were stained from the leaves, but he didn't mind. It felt like a gift from nature. Later that day, the family visited a tea factory to see how the leaves were processed. As they stepped inside, warm steam and the rich scent of tea surrounded them. Machines buzzed continuously, drying, rolling, and roasting the leaves. A guide explained the steps one by one. Toprak listened carefully. "So, the tea we drink is dried in this steam first," he said thoughtfully. He stopped beside a large machine, watching the sequence closely. At the end of the tour, they were offered small cups of freshly brewed rice tea. As Toprak sipped the tea, he thought about how the leaves he had picked that morning had become this drink. That's when he realized, tea wasn't just a drink, it was a whole culture. In the afternoon, the family headed to Rize city center. A light rain began to fall, but no one opened umbrellas. The people of Rize were used to the rain. The streets were wet but full of life. Steam drifted from tea houses, and traditional Black Sea music flowed from nearby shops. To Toprak, it all felt like walking through a fairy tale. They stopped at a bookstore. Inside were books filled with old photos of Rize. His father picked one for him. "You can't really explore a place unless you know its history," he said. Reading about what the city looked like decades ago fired Toprak's imagination. The next day, the family followed the Fruma River, heading toward the famous Zulkale fortress. The road curved through the forest. Leaves tapped the car window as Toprak excitedly watched the rushing river below. When the fortress appeared in the distance, perched on a rocky cliff, Toprak's mouth fell open. They parked and began the climb on foot. The stone steps were narrow and worn. At the top, they were greeted by valleys below and peaks hidden in the clouds. "This place doesn't even feel real," Toprak whispered. "This is where history meets nature," his father replied. The family drove to the famed Ada Plateau. Wide green fields, wooden homes, and foggy forest views welcomed them. Toprak felt like he was seeing nature's true face for the first time. Waterfalls rushed from the hills, sheep bleated in the distance, and the smell of buttery food drifted from the houses. Toprak went hiking with his father. Leaves stuck to his shoes, and sometimes he stepped in mud, but he never complained. The cool air brushed against his face, and he felt enchanted by Ada's magic. That evening, after coming down from the plateau, they entered a small restaurant known for local dishes. The menu listed cornbread, bulama, stuffed collard greens, but what caught Toprak's eye was something called lasbore. "Wait. It's a pastry, but it's sweet," he said, raising an eyebrow. When the dessert arrived, his eyes lit up with the first bite. "This is both a pastry and a dessert," he laughed. That night, he discovered how unique and rich Black Sea cuisine was. As they ate, people at another table began dancing the horan. Toprak didn't know the steps, but he clapped along joyfully. The next morning, before heading back, the family took one last walk along the Fritna River. The river roared as it crashed against the rocks, foaming as it moved. Fallen leaves, gnarled tree roots, and birdsong accompanied them. Toprak crouched near the water, tossing pebbles in and watching the flow. From behind, his mother called out, "Come on now, it's time to head back." But Toprak didn't want to leave. "It's so beautiful. I don't want to go." His father placed a hand on his shoulder. "These lands will always be here. And will return again." On their final day, the family climbed to a scenic overlook. Clouds floated beneath them. In the distance, they could see the city of Rise and, beyond that, the vast sea. Toprak sat on a bench, swinging his feet, turning a seashell he'd found earlier in his hands. Behind him, his parents stood silently, watching the view. Others were there too, some taking selfies, others sipping tea from a thermos. A soft wind blew. Toprak whispered to himself, "Goodbye, Rise. Please don't forget me."